First of all, very good afternoon and Assalamualaikum. Thank you, YCM, for inviting me. This is the second time I'm speaking. I'm surprised they invited me again. After last year's performance. Those that came last year know what I said, and I think that's why Reza Ghazali is not here anymore. Anyway, let's start with the slides. I'm told I've got 10 minutes. Okay, the title of the speech is about Malaysia's position in ASEAN. So where is Malaysia now? What are the challenges to our growth? And what actions do we need to take? These are the three areas that I will try to cover today in the space of 10 minutes. Next slide. Hold on, who's changing my slides? Because I'm not touching anything. Oh, you? Okay, let me do. Okay. All right. So it's my colleague. I've got this. Okay. All right. Okay. What are Malaysia's advantages? As you know, we live in a blessed country. We have many natural advantages. We are at the heart of ASEAN, with a population of 60 million, GDP of about 1.5 trillion US dollar. And we're also close to the high growth regions, especially in China, North Asia as well as India. If you know about the history of Malacca, we had the Dutch, the Portuguese, of course the British, who tried to control the Strait of Malacca. The stat shows that a quarter of the world's traded goods pass through the Straits of Malacca annually, and 94,000 ships pass through the Straits of Malacca. And we also obviously have strategically located ports like PTP and Port Klang, and we have good infrastructure, roads, airports, seaports, railways, and the rest. It's a conducive environment for companies. Somehow Maybank's missed out. We have... Next time, can you put Maybank in? Yeah. So there are many foreign MNCs use Malaysia as a home base as well for their regional companies. Stanchart, HSBC, Motorola. I've seen some of the young graduates here from HSBC as well as Asia. So according to the World Bank, we are ranked 4th in East Asia and Pacific region for ease of doing business. This is at year 2010. And with the combination of geographical, regulatory, and also skilled competitive workforce, we have drawn all these companies here, the foreign players, as well as grooming all the local, global companies like Petronas. Sime Darby may not be a good example right now. Top Glove and Asia. Yeah, sorry. So Malaysia is also a global Islamic finance center. I'm sure the previous speaker has spoken about this a bit. We're the world's largest issuer of sukuk, 54% of new issues in 2009. We are the world's largest Islamic unit trust industry, 134 Islamic unit trust funds at end of 2007. And these are some of Malaysia's achievements in Islamic finance, most advised by Maybank Investment Bank, these sukuks that you see here. And if you want to know number of Sharia compliant securities on Bursa Malaysia today, it's about 853 companies which are Sharia compliant on Bursa, which is about 86% of total numbers of companies. So, in short, Malaysia has come a long way. We have evolved with times to remain relevant, I believe. Malaysia, as you know, used to be raw materials producer 50 years ago. That's before our time. Maybe not, Professor. Today's growth and economic planning transformed us into diversified mixed economy. Now we have manufacturing, services, and of course, oil and gas as well. We are still a leader in rubber and palm oil, but we are facing very stiff and fierce competition from our neighboring countries, especially Indonesia and Thailand. And in fact, Thailand and Indonesia now are the world's largest rubber producer. So these are, I think, which I mentioned earlier. But our growth is now being outpaced by other countries. If you look here in 2001, the GDP for Malaysia was 15.4% of total ASEAN GDP. But in 2009, our GDP fell to 12.9% of the total ASEAN GDP. So someone else have taken our market share. So, despite our growth and transformation I mentioned earlier, the others are growing faster. So for example, Indonesia used to be 28.1% in 2001, and now they are 36.1% in 2009. So one example is Indonesia. And in fact, I think recently you've seen reports that Singapore proudly talking about them being bigger than Malaysia by 2011 in terms of GDP. So how can we remain relevant? Okay, let's look at some of the challenges. So what are the challenges to our growth? Obviously, globalization has brought down barriers and obviously opened up markets. If you look at our competitiveness, it has eroded. Global competitiveness index ranking, Malaysia has dropped in rank from number 21 in 2009 to number 24 in 2010 and further to number 26 this year. Singapore is at number 3, by the way. So our rising costs from land, human capital, equipment, and obviously cheaper competitors, especially Indonesia, Vietnam, and of course Thailand, is drawing away industrial and manufacturing work away from the Malaysians. So we also have to bear in mind, outside ASEAN, investors are also drawn away to the rapid rise of China, as well as India. As when you look at the returns that an investor can get, it's much higher. Yep. Bureaucracy and red tape. I believe, through my experience dealing with authorities and maybe to a certain extent also in large organizations, in multinationals, there's too much bureaucracy. It's more focused on form over function. We have good plans. As you know, we've announced the Malaysia Plan. Now it's the 10th Malaysia Plan. We have the ETP, we have the GTP, we have the NEM. But the key is execution. We have to relook at what we've done in the last 9 Malaysia plans. I think this one, Professor Mani knows about this. So, for example, form over function, what I mean is implementing the latest technology because everyone else is doing it and all our competitors are talking about it. In the end, we are not getting the full benefit. Another example is wanting to be the first to do something. You spend a lot of money just to get the first title, but not getting anything out of it. I think I should not mention the examples. So inefficiencies in the system. There's a non-merit-based environment sometimes that lead to obviously suboptimal allocation of resources. I think we must realize now that the competition is no longer domestic, it's regional and obviously global as well. I'll give one example for us in the stockbroking industry, investment bank together with stockbroking. We have a minimum quota for not just for Malaysian but also for Bumiputra, 30%. For us to grow, even regionally, we need to qualify for that, and it's not easy in these times to get that, to qualify for that 30%. That's one example, but there are other examples. I'm not saying that I don't believe that we must help the Bumiputras, but I'm saying that we should help them the right way rather than having to impose this kind of stifling conditions to our competitiveness. If you look at other examples, it's quite sensitive. We need to relook at basically the entire merit system that we have now. This is a real dilemma for us, especially in the financial industry, which is the human capital dilemma. I think we are facing severe talent shortage. As with talent, as with any resource, we can choose to either make or obviously buy. So making talent, which is on education, There's QS ASEAN University Rankings. Based on this ASEAN University ranking by QS, only 5 Malaysian universities are in top 100 in ASEAN, in Asia. Rankings are also dropping. University Malaya dropped from 39th last year to 42 this year. UKM dropped from 51st last year, number 51, to number 58 this year. Just for comparison to see where our neighbor is. NUS is number 3. So that's the education. Obviously, people are saying we can buy talent. But it's not easy to buy talent. If you look at where our salary levels are, I must say that our undergraduates are relatively underpaid compared to neighboring countries, even in Indonesia, right? I think apart from Maybank, the other companies in Malaysia, I believe, including that blue color. Okay, so keeping talent. I'll just give you an example. Fresh graduate in Malaysia, US dollar per month, about 750 in general. Obviously, engineering and all that a bit higher. Investment banking probably a bit higher. Malaysia, 750 US dollar. In Singapore, it's 2,100 US dollar. And in Indonesia, it's 900 US dollar. So, but these are obviously a function of supply and demand. But if you look at the graduates in Singapore, that the companies that Singaporeans are employing, they are mainly Malaysian graduates. So there was one example is the Malaysian top Cambridge law student, this Tan, to join Singapore Legal Service. I'm sure there are many others. So Malaysians working abroad, estimated is now at 1 million, and about half are professionals. They're not the mates. Maybe one day, 20 years later, Malaysians will send their mates to Indonesia. Anyway. 300,000 Malaysians migrated overseas within 18 months since January 2008 versus only 140,000 migrating in 2007. And these are, again, mainly professionals. So it's not, I think it's not just about the pay, it's also about the standard of living that people are used to, some of these professionals. So what actions do we need to take? This is my view. So, could be wrong. We need to consolidate Malaysia's position in ASEAN, leverage on our strategic location. Malaysia, I believe, is in the heart of ASEAN. When I was in London recently and also in US, most of the regulators there prefer to work with Malaysians because when they work with the Singaporeans, for example, they feel that they have to watch their back. And Malaysia is also seen as a country that can, keep ASEAN together. So we have a leading role there if we continue. Focus on key economic sectors, build and retain human capital, and obviously leverage on our diverse culture. So areas of action, I think all of us know the target is GNI of 15,000 US dollar by 2020. I believe that we need to look at again, just to elaborate, leverage on our strategic location, build a transport hub, perhaps look at Malaysia as a transport hub. If you look at KLIA or the ports now, I think there's some emphasis there by the government. Focus on key economic sectors. Perhaps we can relook and focus on Islamic finance, where we can capitalize on our strength currently as leader in Islamic finance. And we have a large Muslim population as well in ASEAN. And also, we need to constantly innovate our ideas and our leadership in the focus areas. On retain and building human capital, we need to cultivate a performance-based culture. I think there are a lot of improvements that we made recently. We need to look at innovation and entrepreneurial as well. Less crowding out of GLCs, hopefully. Improve the education system. There has been positive action from government in recognizing the brain drain. I think the recent announcement of Talent Corp, let's see whether that works. Leverage on our diverse culture. Based on the latest stats, I'm not sure I'm right, Professor, but 50% Malay, 23% Chinese, and about 7% Indian. The demographics of Malaysia. It's about that. 60% Malay, yeah. So that's why I thought, get the numbers right. Anyway, our people, as if we look at investments, we have three major races: Indian, Chinese, and Malay. We should leverage of this as well. Of course, invest in encourage development of other cultures as well, and Chinese schools, Indian schools, Islamic studies programs, and the likes. So that's my short and brief presentation. I'm sorry if I sound tired. I just ran a larian serentak One Malaysia this morning, and my feet. I'm happy I'm still standing. Okay, thank you very much.